Oh yeah, nice little buckets there. Some shake. Basically, as I do my buckets and been carrying my buckets, I noticed there was a whole bunch of shake sitting at the bottom of them. So I just kind of took out all my shake and just tossed it all into there. It's just the way I roll. Now I just go ahead and dip into this bucket. I don't have to break anything down. I don't have to get my hands all dirty. None of that stuff. Dip into the bucket and take care of what I got to take care of. But speaking of which, I love coming across these prohibition stories that are why prohibition has failed, reasons why it's failed, reasons why prohibition doesn't work, and all this stuff because it allows me to literally just talk about why prohibition itself just doesn't work. I'm in between coffee right now, so it's all about the water. Remember, coffee dehydrates you and all kinds of different things, so if you're drinking coffee out there, drink plenty of water as well. Otherwise, you could end up with kidney stones as well. But every time I do these stories, I always refer to the prohibition of marijuana that we are going through now. I always refer it back to the prohibition of tobacco and alcohol. Now, you don't hear much about the prohibition of tobacco because it just kind of was there and then wasn't. Now, alcohol, on the other hand, led us to large gangs of mobsters, led us to all kinds of violence. We have movies that portray the times of alcohol prohibition. Mostly movies like Godfather, Scarface. All these times are during the times of alcohol prohibition. Of course, Scarface was more about the cocaine, but hey. But so far, the failure of marijuana prohibition really isn't based on just like opinion, my opinion, or anybody else's opinion. It's actually based on just evidence. Uh, there's just so much going on with marijuana that you cannot just keep fighting something that only grows bigger. It's like almost impossible to fight something that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So far, we are in 78 years of marijuana prohibition. And so far within that 78 years, marijuana has only become more popular. Such things as movies, music, glorifying marijuana, and all kinds of different things, pictures, and me. I mean, I, in the end, there's so many things glorifying marijuana and going towards marijuana, and now that we're legalizing and states becoming legal and all this other stuff, we are literally working towards something huge. I mean, it's just getting bigger. Got a little stuck in my thoughts there. That for that reason by itself is one reason why prohibition has completely failed. Prohibition made a promise to eliminate marijuana altogether. It's even more popular. Marijuana also has turned out not to be the dangerous drug it was said to be. Well, I try daily to overdose on this marijuana stuff, and so far it just leads me to a very good meal and a very good night's sleep, and I wake up in the morning and do a video with you guys. Another thing that was very unexpected was how marijuana how the United States actually became the largest supplier of marijuana. Back in the 70s, 1978, Mexico actually allowed the use of what was called paraquat. It was a known herbicide to just eradicate the marijuana plant. After it was actually used, a lot of farmers knew that their plants were going to die. So before their plants died, they pulled them, dried them, and started, sending them out. Of course, out of 61 samples tested, only about 20% of them actually contained paraquat. But because of the fact that it was a large scare back in the late 70s, that it literally became, I mean, it was a huge scare. My uncle still talks about it. I mean, he looks at my stuff sometimes knowing that I grew outside, and he goes, well, if it leaves some certain residue on your baggie, blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, there's nothing, none of that stuff is in it, I guarantee you. But due to this large scale scare and everything else, it led to a huge growing operations throughout California, Oregon, and Hawaii. With these three states starting to grow, it quickly spread through the rest of the 50 states throughout the remaining years, and has become what we know as today, the industry we are creating today. Back then, it was unregulated. It was the Wild West, basically, when it came to marijuana. After a while, our government actually started using different techniques to fight growers. And then growers would just end up using different techniques to continue growing. It just became a large battle of who could do what. The governments actually got to the point to they were going to they used forfeiture laws and would seize your property. Okay, if we found you growing one or two plants and you own this house, you own this car, you own anything, we're taking it. Everything you own because you grew a couple plants. So basically, they would use that against growers. So, well, I can't grow on my property because they'll take my property. Next best thing to do is take it to the guerrilla grow. A lot of them just started going out to public areas such as national parks, national areas, forests, all kinds of spaces. They called it guerrilla growing. Set up small plots of 5 or 6 plants here and there, here and there, and then just go out and check on them throughout the year. Let them do their own thing and then grab them. This led to everything getting bigger and bigger. Basically, as Prohibition continued, it basically shows that it was a goal with no strategy. Prohibition is a goal. We promised to take marijuana completely off the streets and give you a drug-free America. Okay, that's the goal. So far, now that we are trillions of dollars in national debt, I think it's a good portion of it's paid to fight prohibition. We have not yet actually found a good strategy for our goal. So those are lots of reasons why prohibition just isn't working. I mean, to prove that the difference between a goal and a strategy produces a sustainable, competitive advantage, while prohibition actually is proven to give advantages to only law enforcement and politicians. There's no advantage for me for prohibition. I want to smoke. I want to enjoy my herb. I want to enjoy the growth of my plants and watch what they do. And then I want to just laugh at myself when I'm looking at buckets later, while I'm smoking on buckets. And just sit there and laugh. That's all I want to do. Does Prohibition let me do that? Nope, because according to Prohibition, I can't do that. Because it's a dangerous substance that's going to lead me to become psychotic, and I'm going to go out on a rampage and start killing my neighbors. So far, I've known my neighbors for well over most of my life, and they're all still alive. I think I've been smoking longer than I've known some of them. Now, the way that Prohibition has given advantages to law enforcement is law enforcement is able to increase their funding and ask for more things. Law enforcement is able to say, well, I need money so that we need money in this department so that we can get this certain thing that helps us fight marijuana grows. Okay, we need a new expensive helicopter that is normally used in Gulf Wars, but we need it to fight marijuana grows here in our own forest areas. And then politicians use it for voter support. Well, we will continue the prohibition of marijuana. We will get marijuana off the streets. Just vote for me. Lots of people go, okay, that guy sounds awesome. He makes a good promise. Have any of them actually gotten to it? No. Nice promises, though. Basically, Prohibition has sold the public a program that promoted public safety interest in reducing teenage access, reduce drug abuse, and promote public safeties. Those are the three things you will always hear anti-marijuana people say. If anybody who's against marijuana or who is for prohibition, any prohibitionary will always say the same thing. It'll go towards, we are trying to keep it away from teen use. So far, the only way we've been able to keep things away from the teen use or from our children is by giving them good education as to why they should or should not be using such drugs. Why don't you drink alcohol? Well, I don't know. Most kids you talk to will sit there and tell you alcohol just upsets their stomachs. Alcohol makes them sick. They don't really like it. But they get into it later. Why? Because all their parents drink. Education on cigarettes. Well, we are actually seeing a decline in teen use of cigarettes due to the fact that we are educating them on what it's doing to people. We are showing them the disgusting things that happen to people and continue to happen to people. Holes in your throats and your lungs turning black and nasty. All these things done because of cigarettes. Well, let's study marijuana and see what marijuana is doing to the body so we can put that education out there. Basically, a strategy is how we achieve a goal, and prohibition has given us no strategy. Just everybody keeps making up a strategy of how they do it that just keeps costing our nation more money. So, like I've always said before, end marijuana prohibition. One thing that it has led to, though, is some pretty cool little slogans and groups, though. One thing that we have is "Drug Free America" is a great slogan. Yeah, I'd love to see that. No methamphetamines out there, heroin addicts, no, all that type of stuff. I'd love to see that. Also, our DARE program to keep kids off drugs. You want to do that? Stop preaching the no drugs and start educating them on what drugs can do. Start showing them the truths. Standing around with cute little puppets and police officers and explaining to them that drugs are bad only makes them curious to the drug itself. Really? So if I take LSD, keep in mind, because of the fact that I read about LSD is why I experimented with it in high school. Not because anybody educated me on what it does. Maybe if I had some further education, maybe I would not have done it. Of course, there's not as many deaths on LSD as there are in other drugs, but education. I was just told about it. It makes you trip balls. Okay, where's the education in that? So people go and try it with no education. And that was my high school years, but I didn't become addicted. I stayed away from it, and now this is it. Of course, I also taken pills in my past. I refuse to take pills now. I go to the doctors and tell them no. Just say no. But anyways, I'm at the roach. Like I always tell you guys, educate before you medicate. Y'all have a peaceful, positive, productive day. Coming at you guys.